Welcome back to the Messianic Hour. I'm your host, Rabbi Scott. This show is dedicated to reaching the lost and educating the found. We have Ron Cantor on the line with us from Israel. He is coming out with a new book called Identity Theft, How the Church Has Literally Taken the Jewishness Away from Our Messiah. Ron, when we were in the last break, you were talking about how the early church has changed, really forbid the any of the Jewish expression to be expressed in the body of believers. You were talking about you haven't even brought up Constantine yet, who probably was the key or the catalyst of that. What now, though, are you seeing? Any other major events that you saw that took place, and then where are you seeing the change now taking place?
It happened, the Crusade, the Inquisitions, in the year 1099, Christian crusaders with banners of crosses and crosses painted on their shields. They put about 900 Jews, the only Jewish survivors in Jerusalem, in the great synagogue and literally burned it to the ground while they sang hymns. So with such a history, it's no wonder that a Jewish person is a little skittish when you start talking about Yeshua. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. In the beginning, there was revival in Jerusalem. It says in Acts chapter 6, verse 7, that a great many of priests, and by priests, I just want everyone to know, they weren't Catholic priests. They were Jewish priests. These were Jewish priests that worked in the temple. A great many of these Jewish priest leaders came to faith. In Acts 21, verse 20, when Paul comes to Jerusalem, the apostles say to him, "Look how many tens of thousands of Jews have believed, and all of them are zealous for the Torah." So rather than this great revival leaving Judaism, it says they were zealous for the Torah. They were experiencing Judaism in a whole new way. But here in the year 2012, sadly, Jewish people don't see it that way. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to open up the eyes of Gentile believers to the Jewishness of Yeshua, and I want to open up the eyes of Jewish people to the Jewishness of Yeshua.
Now, Ron, you mentioned this, but this is a novel now. How did this become a novel when you're really talking about witnessing and sharing?
Well, it's interesting. I certainly didn't start it out that way. I started out writing a book, and as I mentioned earlier, it was just going to be an addendum to my testimony book, but it turned into a book, and after I'd actually sent the book to the publisher, I had this nagging feeling on the inside, and it was actually a day before I sent it to the publisher. I just felt that something wasn't right. As I began to pray, I felt like the Lord was telling me that I was supposed to rewrite this teaching, but in the form of a novel. And I thought, well, that's crazy. and I felt like he even gave me the idea to do it, which I felt was a good idea, but I just felt that there's just no way, where our publishing date is July 1st, and I've never written nonfiction. I've never written fiction in my life. I write opinion pieces. I write teaching. So I sent the manuscript to the publisher, and I'm still just feeling something's wrong. And then I get an email from a woman who had helped me edit the manuscript, and she basically said the same thing. There's something not right. She had a sense from the Lord that it wasn't finished. And then I got another email from another person saying almost the same thing.
Wow.
Well, at that point, I got in touch with the publisher, and I said, "What do you think of this idea?" They said, "Go for it, do it." I had about 3 weeks, Scott, to write a novel, and I've never written nonfiction. And the teaching remained the same, but I built a story about a young Jewish man who is searching for truth. And even though he's intrigued by the message of Yeshua, by the message of salvation and forgiveness of sins, he knows as a Jew there is no way he could believe in Yeshua, in Jesus. When you grow up Jewish, as you know, Scott, we're taught more than what they don't teach us what we believe as Jews. For the most part, they only teach us what we don't believe, and that is
true.
Don't believe in Jesus.
Right. Now, the person out there who's listening, obviously we have a vast audience across the country. Why should they grab this book? Is this a book to give to a friend to witness to, or should they read it and buy one to give away? What would you say the reason why someone would want to pick this book up?
Well, if they want to know the real Yeshua, the real Jesus. I'm claiming that the Jesus that many people imagine when they pray is different than the real Jesus. Now, I don't mean theologically. I think, as I said earlier, the church has got it right when it comes to salvation by faith. It's through the blood of Yeshua. I'm not saying that they're not born again or they're not going to heaven. I'm talking about the humanity of Yeshua, Jesus the Jew. And I want them to get to know the man that all throughout this country where I'm at right now, all throughout Israel, sharing the good news of the kingdom of God. And what they'll find in the book are incredible insights to the Jewish roots of the faith, the nature of Yeshua, and how the original apostles worshipped after they became believers.
So
now,
they're going to see their Messiah eating a Hebrew national hot dog, not a ham and cheese on white bread with mayonnaise, right?
Right, exactly, and probably with a little bit darker skin and darker hair. But even more than those things, how he would think as a Jew and how he presented his message. For instance, the Last Supper was not actually just a couple of people, 12 people eating. It was a Seder, a Passover Seder. When he picked up the cup of wine to bless it, where he instituted communion, that was part of the Jewish Passover Seder meal. And there's so many other insights. But for an unbeliever, this would be ideal to get to a Jewish unbeliever. In fact, one of the fellows who endorsed the book is an Orthodox Jewish man who lives here in Jerusalem. He works with Christian-Jewish relations. And I said, listen, I know you don't believe like I believe, but take this manuscript, please read it, and tell me what you think. And he loved it.
Wow.
He told me point blank, you didn't convince me, but it's a great book. And I believe that we will convince many that this book is a wonderful defense of the faith, but in a Jewish narrative.
And they can get that book by going to your website, roncantor.com. We also have a link directly on our website, rabbiscott.com. I really want to encourage our listening audience, get this book. It's going to be a great blessing. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. It hasn't come out yet. I'll be talking to Ron to get my copy as well. But this is something that you can use to really understand the roots of your faith and what it means to be a Jewish person who believes in Messiah, but also as a Gentile, understanding the Jewishness of our Messiah, something that we talk about each and every week on this show, how we delve into the Jewishness of our Messiah and the importance of not losing the identity that he is a Messiah for the Jews and the Gentiles, and he came to fulfill the Jewish scriptures and bring them to the fullness, not to be done away with. Matter of fact, he kept all the commandments, as we see there. Ron, we got about a minute, 20 seconds left in the show. What's your last thoughts you want to leave with our audience today?
Well, I would just share with them, even though I'm not a fiction writer, the Lord gave me grace. As I began to sit down and recreate this story, I couldn't believe how much I was enjoying it, how much I was connecting to the character David. And when I woke up after the first morning writing, I sat down with my daughter and I read her the first chapter just to see if we were on the right track. And in the middle of the chapter, she literally just burst into tears at a crucial moment. And then I started crying, and I thought, oh, my goodness, we've got something special. And you know, from several of the leaders that we've had read it, Michael Brown, Don Finto, Paul Wilbur, all of them have said that they couldn't put it down, that once they started reading it, they had to find out what happens with this young man, David.
Well, that sounds great. I want to encourage our listeners, again, go to the website, rabbiscott.com. We have our link there to Ron's website so you can get the book. Remember, we are a listener-supported show. Sign up for our newsletter, get a free gift, the book I Have a Friend Who's Jewish to You, and the prophecy card just for signing up. Let's make a stand. Remember to go to our website, too, to visit our YouTube, to visit and watch us online. Until next week, this is Rabbi Scott saying shalom and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.